Following is a project of CHLY 101.7 FM's nonprofit newsroom in partnership with Dig FM and supported by the Local Journalism Initiative.
Hello and welcome to Midcoast Morning. I'm Heather Watson, your Local Journalism Initiative reporter for the Comox Valley. Cree artist and creator George Littlechild is sharing his art with the Comox Valley this fall with a vast exhibition at the Comox Valley Art Gallery and a special film screening at North Island College. The film being screened this Saturday, October 4th, is Nanakowâsis, a documentary featuring Littlechild's life and art. Both the artist George Littlechild and the filmmaker Connor McNally will be in attendance at the screening on Saturday and spoke with me this week about their work. First is the artist who joined me to speak about the film, the ongoing art exhibition, and his experience as an Indigenous creator, a 60s scoop survivor, and a two-spirit person. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Can you please introduce yourself?
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, my name is George Littlechild, and my Indigenous name is Nanakowâsis. And I'm Plains Cree, and through my Caucasian father, who I didn't know I had as a father, I'm mostly Celtic. So knowing now that I am half white, I claim my Celtic side.
So you have an exhibition on at the Comox Valley Art Gallery. It's open until November 15th. And as well as that, this Saturday, you will be having a special screening here in the Comox Valley of your recent documentary, Nanakowâsis. Can you tell us a little bit about this film?
Well, the film is pretty amazing because the young filmmaker, who's Métis from Edmonton, is quite a creative soul, and he had approached me about one project that led to this documentary about my art and life. And so this isn't the first one that's done about me because I've been in this rodeo for many years. 40 years as an artist my career has been. And so he told my story in a very beautiful, creative way, using 16 millimeter film, which is very telling, and using an old film. He spliced in an old film that was done by Tom Radford of Edmonton and late Gil Cardinal, another Métis filmmaker. So it's interesting to see the two films juxtaposed together. And it tells my story. It tells my story about being a 60 scoop survivor. It tells a story about my life as an artist. And he is very thoughtful and created a very masterful documentary about my art and life.
And I wonder, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like for you to participate in the creation of this piece? How much influence did you have over the film, or were you kind of just the star of the show? How did that kind of play out?
You know, in the filmmaking process, I had no say, and that's often, it's his project. He's the creator of these films. Just so you know that whenever someone does a documentary about you, your input is very limited. And it's not because that's the way it is. It's just they have the creative right to create that. So sometimes you might see things like, oh, okay, is that what I said? And things like that. So, but, you know, I just think it's amazing, the film itself. It's very beautiful. He uses a lot of, how can I put it, using the Cree language mixed with the English language, telling a story. The narrative is very strong. Yeah, and I mean, he infuses different things, like many pictures of my life. I thankfully have documented my art and career. I have all my art photographed over the years, and I have great documentation about my life. And so he was able to use that in the film, some of it, not all of it. But I believe that he did a really beautiful job telling that story of who I am.
And you mentioned as well that the name of the film, Nanakowâsis, is also your name. Can you speak a little bit to what that means?
Well, my great-grandfather was a gifted hunter, and he was known for his kindness. He was a tall man and Cree, Plains Cree, and he knew his culture and language identity. He would have been born before the reserve system, and he was very spiritual. So at a powwow in 2001 back on the Ermineskin Reserve, and now what is called Musquechief, used to be called Hovima, I was invited by my family to attend because one of my relatives said they wanted to honor me at the powwow, and that was a beautiful thing. And so we went back to Alberta, and at the powwow, I suddenly was given my First Nations name, and it was the name of my great-grandfather, Nanakowâsis. And so I now proudly carry his name. I am so happy he was known for kindness, because actually that's what I'm like. I'm very kind, very giving, very supportive, very loving, and he sounds the same. So I'm honored to carry his name with pride, with great pride. Once I received that name, it really did something for me in my identity, because I'm a 60 Scoop survivor. And if you don't know what that is, I encourage you to Google it. And in this time and era, and with the residential school and the different things like the 60 Scoop, and how people are still trying to deny the 60 Scoop in the residential school system even happened. But here's the deal. Yesterday, I was out walking around with my orange T-shirt. I was walking by the ocean. Everyone that passed me by smiled or acknowledged me. And I thought, there is hope. There are people that do acknowledge this. There are people that do care. But then there's the other side that doesn't care, that believes that there's so many negatives. You have to believe in hope. You have to believe in positives. So let's be kind. Let's be loving. Let's show support. Let's go beyond our own egos and try to be the best form of humans that we can be.
And I'd like to just add briefly for context for anyone listening that yesterday was the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So we're recording this on October 1st. So if this goes out later, that is part of why you were wearing your orange shirt yesterday and what sparked some of these conversations.
Yeah, and if anyone's interested, I also have an exhibition at the Comox Valley Art Gallery that's telling about the residential school, the 60 Scoop, some of my paintings, and it's a very powerful art show and experience.
And the exhibition, I believe, is titled Hope for a Better World.
Yes.
And it's open now until November 15th.
That's right.
And I believe you have an artist talk as well on November 8th.
Yes. And also, if you're planning on coming to any of these events, please check the gallery hours and days they're open, because I think they're not open Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So if you're planning on coming, make sure it's open, because otherwise, if you're driving from another town, then you might be disappointed if the gallery's not open.
I wonder if you could share a little bit about why you feel it's important for people to come out and experience your art in person, and what they might experience in visiting this exhibition.
Well, I think there's an awareness. So yesterday with the Spirit Walk in Courtenay, individuals who did that, the Comox Valley, when you go in Spirit Walk, I think it's 5 years old now, I may be wrong, and it's crowded with people wearing orange shirts. It's just amazing how many people come out and support, and a lot of settler family descendants, and that really brings joy to my heart, because I see there is people who do believe in the situation. Why? I have to just tell you, I've had art shows in Europe, lots of places in the States and Canada. So my work is well known. I also have a new book that just came out with Tracy Lindbergh, and it's a bestseller. So a lot of Canadians are aware, not everyone obviously, of my art and my career. So the benefit of this show is the awareness about truth in the residential school system, and that work was created as a result of the research that I did for many years. I feel as an artist I have a responsibility not just to create art, but to be able to talk about the art by doing the research if necessary.
I really am curious, working with such dark and traumatic material, how does this impact your mental health? Do you find any of this work to be a cathartic way of processing the grief, or is it more triggering, or is it both?
This isn't the first time I've created work around the subject matter. I've been doing it for years, even early on in my career. So I've dealt with the subject matter and realized that art is healing. Art has power. Art is a voice, especially for those who cannot speak for themselves, and that's why I created this particular body of work. So I've been well-versed in knowing what I need to do as a human being. And as a 60 scoop facing much trauma as a child, therapy is amazing. And people who go, I honor you. So I always hear, on the TV commercials, mind, body, spirit. But in my Cree way, with the Plains First Nations beliefs of the medicine wheel, mind, body, emotions, mind, body, spirit, and emotions. So we have to address those parts of our lives. So our bodies, we exercise, we take care of them. Our emotions, we cry, we have feelings. The mind, we think, etc. And so we address parts of ourselves and trying to remain in balance. And so as a human, as every human, we all are dealing with issues. We all are dealing with struggles, no matter who you are. It's what you do with those struggles, and to take care of yourself. The only one that's going to love you is you. I mean, we get communities. I surround myself with amazing friends because I'm a good friend, and so I have some awesome, amazing friends. And not everybody in my family loves me, vice versa. So, but I have some really amazing families that do, and that really support who I am as a human being. To surround yourself with loved ones and people that do care. But if you come from a place of trauma, it's time. We have to heal ourselves, especially as Indigenous people in Canada, because of the traumas that we have faced through the residential school, the reserve system, and the 60 scoop.
I'd like to ask you a little bit as well about how you kind of came to this path with your art, because you've been creating art, as I understand it, forever, since you were very, very young. And I'm curious, what initially drew you to making art? What kind of gave you that creative drive?
Well, it was innate. I saw the trauma. I was very abused as a child in one particular foster home. And I just began to realize that I was an underdog. I needed to create artwork for the underdog. I needed to be the voice. That was me. It was innate. It was within me. My Cree people are very spiritual, my ancestors. And so I really feel that art is healing. Art has power and strength.
Following that line, what would you say it means to you to be someone who does create and to be someone who is an artist and to be a storyteller?
Well, to me, I'm honored. This is a gift, the Creator. I don't believe in God and Jesus. I believe in the Creator. And my Creator from my First Nations culture has blessed me with this gift. And I thank the Creator every day for this gift. And without this gift, I wouldn't be who I am. But here's the deal. People always say, oh, I'm so jealous. I wish I could paint. I wish I could draw. And I said, well, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm a nurse. I said, I don't have the gift of being a medical person. That's an amazing gift you have. Honor that gift. This is the gift I was given. I'm very thankful for it.
In reading some things about you, I was curious what it means to you to identify as Two-Spirit and whether you feel that has an impact on your art or has impacted your experience as an artist.
So a lot of people may not realize or know what the term Two-Spirit means. It's a term that was created some time ago, but Indigenous cultures always honored their gay, lesbian, bi, trans people. They were part of the cultures. They weren't ostracized. It only changed when the Christian faith came to these lands, and then people felt shame, and especially with abuse at residential schools when kids were being molested by priests, that homophobia really became part of Indigenous cultures. So what I have been told is that the Two-Spirit person has the male and female within them. And it's not a term I knew in my younger days. And so I am Two-Spirited, and I'm very proud to be Two-Spirit. I am not ashamed of my identity, my sexuality, because knowing from my Indigenous people that we were accepted, we were loved. And, there's so much homophobia on the planet, but I know who I am. And I challenge other people who come from the LGBTQ plus and all the other alphabets to love yourselves. And, one thing that I always think and say, like, hate is a very horrible thing. We have to conquer things with love.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate you, sharing your experience. I think I have one last question to leave you with.
Okay.
Which is, what would you want people to take away from your art?
Well, I want people to take away from the fact that this is the truth. This is my perception of something that happened. I want people to walk away with receiving a gift of knowledge, a gift. My paintings are very bright and beautiful, and in those colors, I believe healing occurs. And I've always used bright colors, and I mean, in this particular body of work about the residential school, there's very little color. Because it's a morbid, dark subject. But my paintings are very bright. And to me, I think what I want people to walk away from is you are the witness. You are the one that can talk about the residential school or the 60s scoop with this particular show. But my work isn't always dark. My work, when I've had other art, I've had many art, check out my resume, it's huge. And, I always have people just saying, I received so much joy from your paintings. I received this from your paintings. And so for me as an artist, it's the gift. And I'm only the conveyor that translates messages to the public. And in my Cree culture, I was told by an elder that he told his daughter, this elder, that I have the spirit of a horse, and the horse is the one that transcends the vision from the other world to the artists. And I've always believed that. So there's strength and power in knowing one's culture, language, and identity, and especially for people who have lost that, like I have. I had to try to learn. I still cannot I'm not a fluent Cree speaker. And I have gone for lessons. I have gone to learn as much as I do. And luckily enough, I had a few of my late aunts and uncles try to teach me some Cree, and I went for Cree classes. But it's never too late to learn your language and identity, and to find ways to be part of that journey. And here's the other thing I'd like to say for anyone who's trying to learn a language, and people laugh at you. You just have to put them in their place and just say, hey, this isn't my first language. I'd prefer you not laugh at me when I try to speak my own language, the language of my ancestors. So let's be kind, let's be loving, let's be gentle.
You just heard George Littlechild, Cree artist and storyteller, share his experiences being featured in a documentary, processing trauma through art, and moving through the world as a survivor of the 60s scoop. Littlechild's exhibition at the Comox Valley Art Gallery is titled Hope for a Better World and is open for viewing every Wednesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. until November 15th. The gallery will host an artist talk with Q&A on Saturday, November 8th from 1 p.m. till 3 p.m. The exhibition itself features 4 distinct parts in the 4 spaces of the gallery. Here I Am, Can You See Me addresses residential schools. Displaced Indians, The 60s Scoop shares personal testimonials of survivors. Artworks Past and Present explores recurring themes across the years of Littlechild's artistic career thus far. And The Spirit Giggles Within displays a montage of images from Littlechild's book of the same title in the front window of the gallery, where it can be viewed outside gallery hours.
Support Midcoast Morning and nonprofit journalism on the Salish Sea by sharing this program with your friends and family. Every listener helps us on our way to sustaining local journalism.
George Littlechild will be joining filmmaker Connor McNally this Saturday, October 4th at the Stan Hagen Theatre at North Island College for a special screening of their documentary Nanakowâsis. Starting at 1:30 with doors opening at 1 p.m., the event is free for North Island College students who can obtain tickets from the Fine Arts print shop on campus. Community members may purchase tickets online for $15 at cvag.tickit.ca. Filmmaker Connor McNally joined me to discuss the film and his experience telling Littlechild's story through his own art form. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. Can you please introduce yourself for our listeners?
Tante, Connor McNally and Tsigasan. My name's Connor McNally. I'm a filmmaker in Edmonton. I'm a citizen of the Métis Nation of Alberta, and I've created this film, Nanakowâsis, about George Littlechild, and sort of snippets and glimpses of a very storied career of a wonderful painter and human.
Do you mind sharing with us what language were you speaking when you introduced yourself?
Yeah, that's Plains Cree dialect, which I know how to introduce myself, and I know a few words here and there, but, I'm always trying to learn more, but I'm not a fluent speaker at all.
And I think that there was a lot of Plains Cree language used in the making of this film. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So the film, there is these poetic, interludes of narration woven throughout the film. Some of it's in English, some of it is in Cree. The poetry was written by Maria Buffalo, who's from Muskogee, which is just about 45 minutes south of Edmonton. And so she wrote the narration that's in the film, and then a friend of mine, Jessie Lawyer, who's from Calahoo originally, and she's Cree Métis, and she's the one that is the narrator.
What did it kind of mean to you to introduce some of this language into the film and have that integrated in?
Yeah, I think a big part of using the Cree language in a film about a Cree person, especially someone whose story, I guess, is intertwined with, not only residential school, but also the 60s scoop, using the language as a form of reclamation and decolonization, if you will. And I think certainly hearing it in the film, I'm trying to evoke certain things, and maybe I won't get into specifics of that, and because I hope people can watch it and have their own interpretations, but certainly hearing the language of the land, of the people, I think is really important as a form of, decolonization.
It sounded like this has been a long running project that you were working on for quite some time because of perhaps the pandemic.
Yes.
I'm curious if in the process of those many years of work on this piece, did it have huge changes in the way that the story developed or the way that you were approaching it, or was it kind of a consistent journey all the way?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. So, I did not have a plan or a storyboard when I started this film. I would just film with George whenever I could and sort of just started gluing it together, if you will. And I don't remember who said this, and I was straight up so oblivious to this observation. But somebody pointed out to me that the film reflects some of George's art styles. He's done lots of interesting collage pieces, and someone made that observation at a film festival, and I was very honored. I hadn't really even considered that, and so now when people ask me about the film, I'm like, oh yeah, it was very much about George's, trying to reflect George's artwork. So no, yeah, I just filmed stuff and started gluing it together, if you will.
I read a little bit of your filmmaker bio, and I noticed that it talked about bypassing formal film training for a more learn-it-yourself method. And I would love to hear if you feel that has impacted the way that you make film. I'm so curious to hear how you feel about your journey.
Yeah, being self-taught, if you will, has its pros and cons. Some of the rules I don't really know, and so perhaps I get to break them, but maybe that works against me and my film doesn't get into certain film festivals, or I don't have the right form signed, and so people can't actually distribute the film legally. There's pros and cons, but I like to think of it having more pros. There's a lot of creative liberties I can take, and I shouldn't mislead people either too. I did go to a performing arts junior high and high school where we were given video cameras, and my dad is a professional actor, so I just didn't go to university or anything for filmmaking. So I think having now been making films as my main profession for 10 years now, I would say you just kind of got to do it. I don't know if people people, maybe there are individuals who get a ton of help and opportunities and hand holding. And I've certainly had lots of help and been given opportunities, but you really have to be self-motivated. If you want to make a film, you just got to do it. And maybe you make a big pot of chili for your friends to help you to hold lights and carry gear. And I don't know, you just kind of have to do it yourself.
What has the journey of the film been like since being able to finally release it and share it with the world?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, we had our premiere at Doxa in Vancouver in 2024, and there was a really good turnout. We had a Wednesday gala kind of screening, and that was amazing. And George was there, and tons of friends and family were there. That was so great. We've done a big screening in Edmonton at our cool theater here. There's been screenings in universities and different film festivals across the country, some of which I've been able to go to and some of which we've Zoomed in for Q&As. And yeah, it's all great. I mean, anytime people come to see the film in person, in a theater, that just makes my day, right? It's the best place to watch a movie is in a theater with an audience.
Anyone interested in watching Nanakowâsis in a theater alongside the artist and filmmaker will have the opportunity this Saturday at 1 p.m. at the Comox Valley North Island College campus. George Littlechild's exhibition series Hope for a Better Future is open for viewing at the Comox Valley Art Gallery until November 15th. More information on the events and exhibitions is available at comoxvalleyartgallery.com. That's our show for the day. Thank you for listening. I'm Heather Watson, guest host and producer for Midcoast Morning. Joe Pugh is our regular host and producer, Jesse Woodward is our executive producer, and RB Frew is our technical advisor. This episode of Midcoast Morning was produced in partnership with Dig FM in the Comox Valley and supported by the Community Radio Fund of Canada through the Local Journalism Initiative. This episode was produced on the unceded territory of the Comox First Nation. You can sign up for CHLY's newsletter at chly.ca/subscribe for updates from our nonprofit newsroom and more. Our theme song is First One by local Nanaimo band Waste Management. If you have a story you would like us to cover, email us at news@chly.ca. That's all for now on this Midcoast Morning.
This program gives thanks to the Snuneymuxw First Nation as we broadcast and podcast from their traditional territory. Thanks for listening.